It is Friday, June 7th, 2024. This is Football Today. That is Justin Penik. I am Chris Rose. Producer Mikey is here. Bobby Skinner is traveling the globe, going to see his girlfriend's family. That's okay. That's what we do in the summer months. But the show doesn't go anywhere. Penik is hanging out at the warehouse because he's been doing what? Captain's League floorball? How you hanging in there, brother? I was a little worried about you.
Well, I was worried about myself just from playing a game. Just got out of my first game. So first of all, I do look a little tan.
Yeah,
so that's part of it. Like I don't think it's a great tan. Chris, you want to see something?
Not really. Boom. Yeah, that's no good. That is a NASCAR tan if I've ever seen it.
Yeah, that's where I've been the last 2 weeks and just got done playing the first Captain's League floorball. So if I look like I'm about to pass out, it's because I am.
Okay, how do you feel on a scale of 1 to 10?
I mean, I feel good physically. It's just honestly, emotionally and mentally running around there, being like, "Huh, I can't." You know, in high school and college, I could do this, but now it's like I just can't do that.
You know what you can do? Talk about football.
Oh, I've been doing it, Chris.
We'll start off with an extension for the defending NFC champion San Francisco 49ers. Christian McCaffrey gets a 2-year, $38 million extension, 24 that guaranteed through the 2027 season. I think that last season, none of it is guaranteed, but at least 24 up to. So do you think that his extension impacts running backs moving forward, or is it that he's one of one and this is it?
Yeah, because Chris, he's earning $19 million now, average annual value per year, like you said. And really no other running back is getting close to it. Like Alvin Kamara is the next one with $15 million.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that usually when positions and their, a certain guy, and his contract is up, it's like, oh, that's going to be the next guy that's going to get paid, right? Like we're talking about it now with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson just got paid. And now a guy like Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb are going to look to get that money, if not even maybe a little bit more. I don't think, based on how running backs are used, that this Christian McCaffrey contract is now the new normal, right?
It's definitely not. I mean, no, because first of all, look at what he does for the team. Didn't he have over like 400 touches last year when you include the playoffs or something like that? There's just aren't guys who stay in the game for every sort of scenario. And he does. He does. And that's a blessing and a curse because now you're going to be paying him almost $20 million per year throughout this extension. And I know he's just turning 28, but that gets into the tricky area when his usage rate is extremely, extremely high. So the Niners are trying to thread a needle a little bit, right? They're trying to keep Christian McCaffrey a viable, exceptional part of their offense while not wearing him down to the point where now you're getting diminishing returns on a player that is not, you're not paying him $12 million a year. You're paying him 19. That's big boy money. I know the cap's going up and stuff like that, but you still haven't paid your quarterback. You're still going to have to pay some other guys on your team. You still haven't paid Brandon Ayuk. Like, I think it's not as easy as it seems.
Right. And I think they needed to, because if you just look at the efficiency and the effectiveness when Christian McCaffrey's on the field, and if you look at the effectiveness when Christian McCaffrey is getting the ball, or really any other running back is getting the ball, it's a drop off, and it's apparent. And I think you even saw this down the stretch for the 49ers and even a little bit of their playoff run. The first half and second half splits of Christian McCaffrey were apparent as well. They're so much better when he is getting the ball, and they're so much better because he's really, really good, right? So I agree with you where his skill set and his usage, like what other running back that's coming up that's like on their rookie deal has an opportunity to even get close to that. I would say Bijan Robinson is the closest, but still you have Tyler Algier in that backfield. Now he's not going to be there forever, and there's still 4 more years that Bijan Robinson is under team control. So I guess he has an opportunity to with this skill set, but I don't know, man. Like this could be, at least with this crop of running backs, the closest a running back gets to $20 million a year.
Well, it's not only that. It's just what Christian McCaffrey brings, I equate him to two guys that I worked with at NFL Network, LaDainian Tomlinson and Marshall Faulk. And I think that these are the three most complete running backs that I have seen. I remember when McCaffrey was coming out, I think it was 2017, and Mike Mayock was still with us up in the booth with Rich Eisen, and he said that McCaffrey is so good that he catches the ball like a wide receiver. He doesn't catch the ball like a running back. Like, you have to swing it out to him, and he'll catch it and gather himself. Like, he can run any pattern. You hit it to him in stride, and it's a 60-yard touchdown instead of an 18-yard gain. Like, he is such a difference maker, and that's exactly what LaDainian Tomlinson used to do, and it's what Marshall Faulk used to do. And way back in the day, it's a little bit of what Roger Craig with the San Francisco 49ers used to do 40 years ago when they were winning Super Bowls. There's not that many. There have been guys who've been able to catch out of the backfield, a la Larry Centers, but he never ran the ball the way that these guys do. And there have been tremendous ball carriers like Derrick Henry. And yes, he has caught passes and taken screens 70 yards. But he's not a weapon in the passing game the way that Christian McCaffrey is. He is just complete. And it's just the way that you figure out when is too much for a guy like this, because I did feel like it was too much at times last year.
Yeah. Now, the good thing for McCaffrey is that he did play 16 games last year, and he played 17 games the year before. But then the 2 years before that, it was 3 games and 7 games. And I don't even, it's so tough to predict injuries, especially for running backs, because you could twist your ankle the wrong way, and then it's a high ankle sprain, and then you're out for you're out for 4 weeks minimum, and then you may not even be the same for another month after that either. So injuries are but that's part of the conversation when you talk about paying any running back at any time. But also why I feel like McCaffrey is so unique in that regard, Chris, it's because it's Kyle Shanahan and what Kyle Shanahan allows him to do, and why I think this contract is worth it. Obviously, if he plays, 3 and 7 games the next 2 years, that's not worth it, and it's not a good contract. But if he continues to play, and if he continues to be who he is, and even if he starts to take a step down now that he's age 28 and going on, he's going to actually June 7th, today, Friday, Christian McCaffrey's 28th birthday. How do you like that?
Happy birthday. There you go, buddy.
So even as he's going on to 29, I think it's worth it because of what Kyle Shanahan allows him to do. And there's just really not many other offensive systems that allow running backs to be that versatile, that good, give them that much space, and be so explosive.
I know that Mitchell was a little banged up last year and probably didn't give them the touches that they wanted, but also Isaac Renda, who was a guy they drafted in the 4th round out of Louisville, really fast kid, ran great at the combine. I think he'll end up getting some burn, so we'll see how they start to take care of him.
You love that pick.
I do. I've talked about it several times on this show.
Yeah.
We also talked several times, basically almost every show, about Tua. And he did show up, and he looks totally different. Beard is gone. Some weight is gone. Does it change your thought process with Tua? Like when you saw him, were you like, okay, well, now that's going to get him X amount of dollars, $1 million more because he's in great shape?
I wonder, do you think that's something that the team asked him to do? I'm reaching here, Chris. It's early June and I'm reaching here. Do you think that's something the team asked him to do? Because I don't know if, hey, you look slimmer, maybe you're faster, right? Slimmer, faster. And then I don't think that's going to cause Tua to move more or scramble more. Do you think that's something the team asked him to do, or that he just wanted to do it?
Well, his scrambling numbers were down.
Yeah.
But he is not, we're not mistaking him for Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, those guys. Like this is a different guy. This is really, I would be comfortable with him being whatever weight he is that will get him through seasons. And that was the big question. Well, he ended up playing 17 games last year and leading the league in passing yards and 29 touchdowns. He did have 14 interceptions. He fumbled 5 more, lost 5 fumbles as well. So his turnover stuff. But like, I think we're now at the point where just Miami make a decision. Like, I'm kind of done with the Tua talk. Like, okay, if you want to sign him up long-term, go for it. If you don't want to, if you want to be one of those teams that moves on from him, fine, I'm okay. Like, I feel like I'm almost like, I know Bobby is much more in the, I don't think he loves Tua camp. because everything has to be perfect for him in order to excel. And that has been the MO. But I don't know if Chris Greer has the balls to say, well, let's go find somebody else to put in with this great skill group of guys that we've got.
You got a window, and the window is Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. And especially
it's a good window though.
And it's a great window. But okay, so here's the question. We just talked about Kyle Shanahan and how he Christian uses Christian McCaffrey so well, and that's why that contract that if any other team signs a running back $19 million per year, we're sitting here and we're laughing at it. What are you doing? That's not what you do in the NFL. But Kyle Shanahan does it, and it's like, yeah, great move, great decision. Now with that core that they have, and also with Mike McDaniel at head coach being the offensive play caller there, I wouldn't mind if they try to make some sort of bigger swing at quarterback or invest in a quarterback rookie. And I'm not talking about this year. I'm talking about next year heading into future years. Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to get our rookie quarterback. We're going to make another swing at quarterback. We even had the conversation, if the Cowboys move on from Dak, I think Miami should be the first team that's almost knocking at his door saying, we're going to pay you a boatload of money, which I don't even know if they have. Pay you a boatload of money, move some money around, and get you in Miami because we have Mike McDaniel, because we have these receivers. So I don't know, man. It depends on what the Dolphins view Tua's ceiling as.
What do you view it as?
I view it as it is right now because
but that's not a ceiling. What do you think? Do you think he can lead him to a Super Bowl?
No. I think he's already reached his ceiling. Is my point.
Oh, really? So you think just getting him to the playoffs,
yeah?
I mean, listen, they were
Chris, if they get the right playoff matchup, they can win a playoff game.
Well, they were one bad fourth quarter away from being the 2 seed last year.
And ironically enough, I have numbers on the fourth quarter, which I was thinking about you the other day because we had a conversation. I forget what episode this was, but we were having a conversation. We were talking about quarterback play, and I come in here with EPA, CPOE, and one of your main points is, what? You know how I remember, Chris, you evaluate quarterback play based on with quarterback, 2-minute drill, 2 minutes are left on the clock. We're down by 6 points. We need 7 to win. What quarterback do I want under center? Am I right?
Yes. That's to me, that is the main tipping point because there's so many games decided by one score. So yeah, I want somebody that can do that.
So Tua last year, out of 28 quarterbacks that had 100 attempts, 100 plays in the fourth quarter last year. In EPA CPOE composite, Tua was 25th in EPA CPOE composite. No, not very good. And I even have some regular splits too, if you don't like those fancy stuff. In the fourth quarter, I'll just do QB rating. Fourth quarter, he had a QB rating of 75.9. In the first quarter, 117.3. In the second quarter, 109.2. And even the third quarter, a respectable 92.3. If you break it down by first half and second half, 112.2 QB rating in the first half, 85.5 in the second half. I don't typically love touchdown interception ratio, but 20 touchdowns to 6 interceptions in the first half, 9 touchdowns to 8 interceptions in the second half. So, we're talking about Tua, a Tua that's trimmed down a little bit. He trimmed the beard and he lost some weight and he's looking good. This is the time of year where, everybody's looking their best and everybody's looking good. I want to, if Tua's going to take another step up, we've analyzed Tua so much in some of the areas that he needs to improve, like after 2.5 seconds, et cetera, et cetera. But when that game's on the line in the fourth quarter and you're playing good teams, if you're playing bad teams, the Miami Dolphins, odds are they're blowing them out because they have an explosive offense and they have a really good offensive coach that's going to find the advantages. But when you're playing the good teams, they're going to know what you're trying to accomplish. And when the game's close, doesn't seem like Tua has those numbers, and the eye test even backs it up, that Tua under center with 2 minutes to go, not the quarterback that you want.
Yeah, I have to admit, if I were a Dolphins fan, I don't think I would be overjoyed with a Tua extension. I think he's fine. I think he is fine, but that's not what I want. I don't want just a fine quarterback.
Right.
And I think it's going to be fascinating to see what they do. Do you think the easier thing to do is to extend him, right?
Yeah,
Isn't
because
that
especially, how do you think Tyreek Hill would react to, all right, we're going to start over? I don't think he'd be like that.
no, but it depends. What do you think would have happened had Kirk Cousins walked through that door this year? Let's say that Tua wasn't. Let's say this is a. Let's say Tua's contract situation had been. Let's say he'd been drafted in 2019 instead of 2020. So
Yep.
last year would have been his fifth year, and that he was a free agent, and they decided to go a different direction. They brought in Kirk Cousins. Do you think that the receiver and skill group would be happier or less happy?
Oh, I think they would be happier. I would be thrilled because you see the evidence. If I'm a receiver, right, I want my targets. I want my hey, you want to win football games too, but you want those good numbers to go with the two, because especially you see that wide receiver market and you see what these guys are getting paid, and everybody wants to get paid, right? I'd be thrilled because you see what Kirk Cousins has basically done with Justin Jefferson as well. And also, this is no shot at Kevin O'Connell. I think Mike McDaniel's offense is more QB friendly and wide receiver friendly, and that's saying something because Kevin O'Connell is also very good.
Yep. Okay. I think it's going to be one of those stories. I think Dak is the most interesting story because they can't tag him, and then it's Tua after this year because I don't think they're going to get a deal done. I just don't. I don't see it happening. Could be interesting. One guy that's coming back, we just don't know when, is Nick Chubb of the Cleveland Browns. He actually addressed the media this week for the first time, I believe, since the season-ending injury on a Monday nighter, week 2 in Pittsburgh. He had 2 surgeries since then, one to repair the MCL, then another one in November to repair his torn ACL. This all happened in his left knee, the same one that cost him time in college at Georgia. Few things that came out of his press conference. Number one, he did not blame Minkah Fitzpatrick. They asked him point blank, do you feel it was a dirty hit? He said no. He said he actually came up to him while on the field. He goes, but I haven't heard from him since, but it wasn't dirty. He does hear the doubters out there about wondering whether or not that Nick Chubb can return to Nick Chubb status. And most importantly, he says there is no return date. He said he's doing fine, but he would not pinpoint a date as to when he will return to the field. Are you one of those naysayers that says, I'm not so sure Nick Chubb can get back to being Nick Chubb?
No, not until I see it, because, dude, it was even when, we just mentioned how McCaffrey, there were 2 years where he only played 10 combined games, and that's when Nick Chubb, and it was Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry that basically owned the NFL. And even, rookie year Saquon Barkley, and then second year Saquon Barkley, who had a high ankle sprain and missed time. But it was Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry that were just owning the NFL. And again, another offensive play caller that allows his running back to do some great things. But Nick Chubb's broken tackle rate, his yards after contact, for years, it was the best in the NFL. And I know that Cleveland Brown offensive line and Stefanski, they're going to continue to open up holes for him. So I'm not going to doubt him until I see that it's not the same. And even if it's not the same, Chris, I still think that he's going to be good as long as he can fall forward, yards after contact, if he can break some tackles, even if the same explosiveness isn't there. But Chris, I even want to ask you, because I was reading an Athletic article, talking about, his comments and stuff like that. He had the surgery to repair the medical capsule, meniscus, and MCL. And then this is the thing that I think we need to keep an eye on, and why the time return and why the timetable is so much up in the air. He had a second surgery to repair damage to his ACL in November.
Right.
And I think that's the November surgery is why maybe there's a little doubt on when his proper return date is going to be.
Well, that's the thing. So, people know or might not know, I call the Browns preseason package on TV, and I don't have any inside information. I mean, they are really keeping this close to the vest, which they should. Nick Chubb, I have this Jim Brown jersey over my shoulder. He's obviously the greatest running back in Browns history, and obviously is in the discussion for greatest in the history of the sport. Nick Chubb is second, and he has done things that not even Jim Brown did in his first 6 years in the NFL. I think what's going to happen here is that you're not going to see him until midseason at earliest. I think the Browns bye is week 9. And I think that if Browns fans and NFL fans can wrap their heads around that he's not going to be available the first half of the year, but he's almost like a trade acquisition, then that's the way you have to look at it. And the Browns' schedule is really backloaded. They've got a really tough stretch. But if you have Nick Chubb that can be even 80% of what he was for the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks, I think that's a win. I am not going to bet against him, too, because I think he's just built different, man. He is one of the great finishers in the history of this sport. In the fourth quarter, when guys are beaten down, it feels like he is just getting going. Go look at his numbers in the fourth quarter of games, and he just, for whatever reason, owns it. He owns it. And they've kind of loaded up on some guys. Yeah, I mean, Jerome Ford will be back, I think. He'll be back. He's certainly on their team right now. They signed Deontay Foreman, who at times has shined in the NFL for a 2-week, 3-week span.
You know what's funny? He's like the ultimate backup running back that's going to come and set the world on, set the world on fire relatively for a couple weeks stretch. So I actually love that acquisition by them.
Yeah, I think it's solid. Naheem Hines is a guy who's coming off of a major surgery as well, and
they've been rehabbing together.
Pierre Strong is a guy they picked up at the end of training camp last year from the Patriots and is kind of a speedster out of there. So they've got guys that are going to get shots. Nobody is close to Nick Chubb. They terribly missed him last year. They missed him on so many levels. I hope he does get back because he's one of the most popular, for a guy who doesn't say shit, he is one of the most popular Browns of the last 50 years. Easily. God, I hope he gets back, man.
I can't believe that this. First of all, he stayed under the radar for this long, but these were actually his first comments post ACL. Like he didn't make like an appearance or even like show up in the locker room for something.
No, he was always around, but I don't think, if I remember correctly, I don't think they talked to him. Like he wasn't made available, and you can duck out in the locker room when the locker room's open. You can go, maybe he was rehabbing or doing other stuff. He was constantly around the team. In fact, that Thursday nighter against the Jets where they clinched the playoff game, he was the one that came out and smashed the guitar, and that place went nuts. So, he contributed in other ways. It just wasn't running the football.
Right. So I want to ask you this, Chris, because especially this is going to be a very interesting question kind of leading into the season, especially as we're waiting for Nick Chubb to return. It's important just for the Browns offense. And I want to ask you, how reliant do you feel the Browns are on their run game for their overall offense to be successful? And are they too dependent on it?
Well, I think, first of all, they made a change, and we don't even still know how the play calling is going to go because Ken Dorsey was brought in, Alex Van Pelt, and every other offensive coach is out. So even though it's Stefanski still at the top, everybody else is new. And I think part of that is because Deshaun Watson really wants to air it out. And I don't know if that's the right way to go about things. I think that and they have major injuries on the offensive line. Their tackle situation was disastrous last year, right? Jed Wills and Jack Conklin and DeJuan Jones, their top 3 tackles are all coming off of injuries, season-ending injuries. So we don't know exactly how that's all going to work. I think this is going to be fascinating for many reasons. One, we don't know who's exactly calling the plays right now. Stefanski gives his standard answer. By the way, congrats to Stefanski and Andrew Berry, who both got contract extensions, well earned. And so we don't know how that chain of operation is going to work. We don't know exactly what the offense is going to look like because they did bring Ken Dorsey in, and it's been a fairly collaborative effort from what I understand. And then we don't know the most important piece, which is how good is Deshaun Watson these days? If he wants to throw the ball, is that really best for the Cleveland Browns? Maybe in 2019, it was for the Houston Texans, but 5 years later for the Cleveland Browns, I don't know if that's the best way to go about things. I like running the ball. I think Browns get too cute when they get inside the 20, like a lot of teams. If they get way too cute, they get away from running the football. I'd like to see us do it.
Yeah, the reason why I bring it up is because if you feel like they're too dependent on it, right? And then Nick Chubb comes back, I inevitably think that Nick Chubb's 2024 effectiveness is going to be worse than 2025. Like, even if Nick Chubb comes back and he's averaging, I just want to look at his Pro Football Reference page here. So he's average yards per attempt 6.5, 5.5, 5.65, 5.2. Oh, it's unbelievable.
It's unreal.
Let's just say he averages 4.5 yards per attempt. 4.4, which is still like that's average, right? If he's averaging that, and there's some people being like, I don't know, Nick Chubb may not have it. If he hits that benchmark, then I'm thinking, all right, 2025, he's back, because this offseason, it's not about getting stronger. It's not about taking care of your body. It's about rehabbing that knee. That's what this offseason is about. That's the main priority, right? Not even about conditioning, nothing. It's about rehabbing the knee. So that's why I'm excited for his 2025. But if they are too dependent on him and his effectiveness and overall efficiency isn't there, that's where I get worried about the Browns offense just being like, oh, we have Nick Chubb. We can just lean on Nick Chubb on early downs. And then you get yourself into some trouble on late downs where then Deshaun Watson has to drop back on these 3rd and 7 and pluses. And then you take sacks. And that's how an offense really, really gets into trouble. And that's what I want to avoid for the Cleveland Browns. There actually is a Jameis Winston quote that has come out of OTAs about who may possibly be calling the plays. Would you like to hear it?
Sure.
So, Browns backup quarterback Jameis Winston may have let it slip that the former Buffalo Bills play caller Dorsey may now be doing the same in Cleveland. Quote, I've really enjoyed his coaching presence. This is about Dorsey. What we do on the field in terms of drill work has been fine work. One of my favorite quarterback coaches who worked with Peyton Manning, Clyde Christensen.
Sure.
Always work on the field, and I'm just so happy that what he's doing, and he's emphasizing with his feet, with his timing, and also him installing the plays, him calling the plays. So maybe as of now, during the spring, Ken Dorsey is calling the plays, and I think that's usually a sign and an indication of who will be calling plays in the fall.
Yeah, well, Stefanski is always very tight-lipped, and in fact, he said during a press conference after they announced his extension and they were asking him about play calling, what it's going to be like if he doesn't call plays. He's like, hey, listen, Deshaun Watson called the last series, and I thought he did a really good job, so who knows? Maybe it'll be Deshaun Watson calling his own plays.
Who knows? We haven't talked about it yet. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I love NFL coaches.
We will see. CJ Stroud. He's awesome. He had, in my opinion, maybe the greatest rookie year we've ever seen out of quarterback. He was so good. So good. He's kind of made the podcast tour and is not afraid to share his own opinions on stuff. One of which I think probably caught your ear a little bit. He said he would rather have Eli Manning's career than Aaron Rodgers. And a lot of people were like, come on, CJ. Like, you're awesome, but what in the world are you thinking? Is he off base?
I think he's been on a little too many podcasts now. You want Aaron Rodgers' career, right? Right?
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, it's not 2 rings versus 0 rings and 4 MVPs. It's 2 rings versus 1 ring and 4 MVPs.
I think it's also how you play the game too, right? Because I actually took a look at Brett Favre's career too, which I know we currently don't talk about Brett Favre for a whole other reason, but let's just stick to football. You know, if you look at the career of Brett Favre, where he was in the league for 20 years, Aaron Rodgers, I think, he's also going on his 20th year. So they're about the same, even though, Rodgers missed he missed a couple years early in his career. And then also, obviously, Rodgers missed last year, too, only playing, four snaps. But if you look at their resumes, somewhat similar. Brett Favre's an 11-time Pro Bowler. Favre's a 3-time All-Pro. Favre is a 3-time MVP. Favre is also a Super Bowl champ. And then you have Rodgers, who's a 10-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All-Pro, 4-time MVP, and then also a Super Bowl champ. Why I bring up Favre? I was thinking to myself, you know what? When you talk about in the discussion for greatest quarterbacks ever, Favre's name really isn't brought up, even though the resumes of a guy like Rodgers and Favre are very similar. But Rodgers, in the way that he's played the game, the way his mobility, the ability to improvise, throwing from different arm angles, he was like one of the first people to do it before all these guys have started to come in here, like Lamar and Josh Allen and Mahomes, everybody's trying to replicate it. Even Drake May's trying to come in here and replicate it too. Rodgers was like the first guy to really do it, but we really don't talk about Favre in that kind of realm. We always put Peyton, we always put Tom Brady, we put Joe Montana as like, that's the discussion for the greatest quarterback ever. And even Mahomes is entering it because these guys got the Super Bowls. So I still would want Aaron Rodgers' career, because I think even if Rodgers retires with one Super Bowl, we're going to remember him just as one of the best quarterbacks ever. But it's not necessarily going to be off of the resume as a winner. It's going to be off of the talent. What do you think?
Well, first of all, the reason that Favre isn't brought up is because of the way he was reckless.
Yeah.
He was reckless, and it could have been significantly worse if he didn't throw the ball so damn hard. Really, I mean, like, go talk to any defender who played against him. They knew he was going to throw him like 5 or 6 interception-worthy passes. It's just, it came out so hot that guys couldn't snag it. You know, that's just what happened with him. And Aaron Rodgers plays exactly the opposite way.
Yeah.
Like, how many years have we seen 35 touchdowns and 4 interceptions? Like, he always leads the league in passes thrown out of bounds because he learns to live another day. That wasn't Brett Favre's way of doing football. You know, as far as the CJ Stroud quote, I wouldn't find one person who would rather have Eli's career.
No.
Not one. I mean, you're a diehard Giants fan, and it's cool. You got you 2. Outside of those 2 years, he didn't win one playoff game, right?
No.
I mean, they went on remarkable runs, and it was the defense doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
I'll fight back, because it wasn't in 2011. 2011, they had the worst offensive line in football. They had the worst run game in football. I think they had the 32nd ranked defense too. So 2007, it was clutch Eli. I mean, I will say though, Chris, I would throw it right back at you. You want, this is fun. This is fun. Prime Eli Manning in 2011, where he had like 5 game-winning drives, right? Maybe even 4 fourth quarter comebacks, 5 game-winning drives. I think that's the final number, 2011. Mm-hmm. Who he also beat Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs that year, MVP Aaron Rodgers. Who would you rather have the ball in their hands? Eli Manning in his prime 2011 or Aaron Rodgers at his best with 2 minutes left and the game's on the line?
Listen, I don't remember enough of Eli's run that year. I mean, I just don't. You know, sorry. If you're not a fan of a particular, like the only, there's a few I'll remember. I'll remember Joe Flacco's run because of he threw 11 touchdowns and no interceptions.
That's the run you remember, but you don't remember Eli's run?
Hey, Joe Flacco, 11 touchdowns, no interceptions. Pretty good. I mean, I don't know how you can do better, to be honest with you. Ended up getting him a nice contract. Listen, Eli's great. It's so funny because people look at him and they're like, oh, man, he got everything out of his career that he could. Like, he was the freaking first pick of the draft, man. He was the pick of the draft in a heavy quarterback talented draft, right? It's him, it's Phillip Rivers, and it's Ben Roethlisberger. Like, that's pretty good talent right there. That's 3 guys that could end up in Canton, Ohio. But when we're having the discussion of Aaron Rodgers heading to Canton, the only words the presenter has to say is, hey, Aaron Rodgers is on the ballot. And that's it. There's no other discussion that has to be had. With Eli Manning, they're going to have a thorough discussion. And, you know, it always depends who else is up, you know, because they have to take 5 modern era finalists.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way the math works out. Eli Manning is, I mean, he's not going to be a first ballot guy unless there's just nobody else available. And then after that, it gets interesting. You know, then it becomes, he played in New York. He did win 2 Super Bowls. And he was a good quarterback. I can't even call Eli a great quarterback. I don't think that's being mean. You think he was a great quarterback?
I think at times he was great, but
that doesn't make you a great quarterback.
His entire career was not great.
Right. His entire career was not great. I think he was a really good quarterback.
Yeah.
Do you think he'll get in, by the way?
Yes, I have to say yes, and I have to say that he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, and I can't enter into a debate otherwise because there is no debate for me.
Seriously,
go ahead.
You think he's a first ballot guy regardless of who is on there?
I have to say yes. I have to.
So you think he was a better quarterback than Kurt Warner?
No, because Kurt's peak was much better.
Yeah.
And
he disappeared a little bit in the middle.
Yeah. You know, Eli kind of disappeared. Eli disappeared towards the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's more accepted.
Yeah.
If you do it and then go away for a little bit and then do it again, people are wondering, well, what happened to the donut hole? You know, I think that's what they're worried about.
Now,
I don't know.
Now, let me, I'll even come at it from this angle. Like, I didn't hear the CJ Stroud interview. He's been on a lot of podcasts. He's been awesome, by the way. Like, yeah. Even just in the interview stuff.
Fun.
This is the first thing that I've heard him say that's getting to be like, I feel like you've been on one too many interviews now.
Right.
But if he, maybe this was taken out of context, which I don't think it is, because it literally said we're talking about careers here. I would rather have Eli Manning's career plus his post-playing career and his reputation than Aaron Rodgers.
Well,
I think what Eli Manning has done after he's retired, it has been the perfect Hall of Fame candidacy tour of everybody love. You know, when Eli retired, everybody didn't love him. You know, there was even some Giants fans that were like, "Yeah, we appreciate what you're doing, what you did, but you know, we kind of wanted you kick you out the door." And I was kind of like that a little bit too. But now that he's retired and he's doing everything with Peyton and he's such a media superstar, I think that's only helped his Hall of Fame candidacy.
Well, yes, and people have to know this is the little trick. It's like why so many great NFL players do media afterward, because they want to stay in the forefront of the voters' brains.
Yeah.
They want to. Some guys don't need it, right? Michael Strahan was going to be a Hall of Famer, although he was not a first ballot guy. He ended up getting in on the second ballot. So he didn't need it from that standpoint. Stray is smart enough to use it to catapult the rest of his career elsewhere. But there are some guys who have been, I'm not going to call them necessarily, say it's fair to say borderline, but they have to have discussions. And some guys go by the wayside. They don't end up doing the media. And you're like, wait, how good a player were they? Like, what's the deal? I don't exactly remember. So Eli has done great. The Manning cast has been exceptional for him. Exceptional, because he plays the aw shucks younger brother perfectly. He's extremely likable. Extremely likable. The difference between him and Aaron Rodgers is I don't know one thing about what Eli thinks about the rest of the world. He's played it so smart where we know every thought about Aaron Rodgers, and some people are like, that's right, Aaron. You tell him, and other people are like, God, what a freaking nut job he is. So it's two totally different things. It just depends. Would you rather have people know exactly what you want them to know about you, which is what Eli has done, or would you rather have people know everything about you, like Aaron Rodgers, and deal with it?
Yeah.
Because he does. I think Aaron Rodgers loves it. I think Aaron Rodgers loves the attention and loves it that some people love him and some people hate him. And you can't hate Eli. Penik.
You
can't hate Eli.
I refuse.
Yeah, I think even if you were to ask Eagles and Cowboys fans, they might not have liked him as a player, although they might have loved him. I don't know. just as a guy, you can't hate Eli.
No. And here's also the whole Hall of Fame candidacy thing too. I think Eli did pretty well against the Eagles. Like the Giants did own the Eagles for a little bit, and now the shoe's been on the other foot basically since 2016. But I think, especially even if you ask Cowboy fans, even though Eli has some good wins against Cowboys, you want to ask DeMarcus Ware how he feels about Eli Manning? You want to ask DeMarcus Lawrence how he feels about Eli Manning? Those guys love him. Those guys love him. Had a chance to hit the shit out of him for a couple years. That's what they did. That's what they did.
We got one more.
I'm going to call an audible, Chris.
Yeah, go for it. Audibles. I like audibles.
We're Omaha. We actually have an idea. Like one of our notes is which team in transition that finished last in their division last year is the best chance to bounce back. That's a whole episode that we're going to do sometime this summer. So we're going to skip that because the next game of floorball is starting soon. I want to talk about the last question that I have in this document, which basically is, you love talking about teams that are interesting and not interesting. And I had an epiphany last night. What team is the least interesting in the NFL? Because I have my team, and I think there's one team.
Okay, well, I want you to go first because I forgot to prepare for that. I had a long day yesterday.
That's fine.
But I will have an answer, but I need to think about it a little bit. So you go first.
What division did you guys do last when I was not here?
We did the AFC West. So are you going to go you're either going Raiders or Broncos, huh?
No. I just wanted to know because if you already talked about this team.
Okay.
So you didn't. That's great news.
But I do have an opinion.
No, I'm not even talking about even though it is technically the Panthers.
I don't think so.
They're out. Actually, you know what? They're Bryce Young. That's interesting, right? New coach, new everything. David Tepper's a weirdo, psycho. Do you have a team?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Actually, it just popped into my brain. Go ahead.
The least interesting NFL team is the New Orleans Saints.
That's you and I are in the same boat.
Bang! I had a feeling that we were going to go the same way. I was sitting preparing everything at like 9-10 o'clock last night, and I'm like, you know what? What team haven't we talked about on this show? Because we talk about two all the time. We talk about the Texans. We've talked about every team in the AFC North a good amount. We even talked about the Browns today. We just did the NFC East. We try and stay away from the NFC East a little bit because our Giants are in there, but we've been breaking down Dak. You go through all the divisions. I'm like, what? I want to know what team haven't we touched on? And it's the New Orleans Saints. You want to know why? Because there's nothing fun about them right now.
It's not only not fun, Justin. It's two things. Number one, it feels like they're going to get out from under the Derek Carr contract after this year. That they're going to move on. And number two, it feels like they're going to have a new head coach. Like, unless Dennis Allen wins 11 games, if they go 11-6 and they feel better about maybe he sticks around. But if they go 8-9 or 7-10, you're going to be like, yeah, we need to go change. So when you go into the year feeling like the two most important portions of your team are going to change, then what's the point? Anyway, it's almost like, let's just hit the fast forward button. I mean, do you think there's any way they go 12-5 or 11-6?
No, but they could win 8-9 games. They went 9-8 last year and 7-10 the year before. Are you firing your head coach after he gets you to almost 500?
Yeah, I am. Because what's the identity of the New Orleans Saints?
And that's why they're so boring, because they don't have it.
Right. They're a boring team.
We're going to play good defense?
I'll be honest with you. I think the Giants are a little on the boring side.
Right. I think we're reaching to a point. Teams that don't have a clear quarterback plan are not very interesting.
No, I do think that there's a clear quarterback plan. I think they're looking for their next quarterback. That is a plan.
For who? The Saints and the Giants or both?
That does make them boring to me.
Yeah.
That's what makes them boring, is that I know that there's no drama here. There feels like there's no drama with teams like that. If there's a young guy they just drafted and I want to see, like the Raiders, I know are looking for their next quarterback. There's no way in the world Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell is their quarterback of the future. Like the Denver Broncos, more interesting to me because I am curious to see if 72-year-old Bo Nix can actually do something. You know, that'd be interesting. You could give me your bottom 5 your most boring teams in the NFL. But I think it's funny that we both hit the Saints on that.
Yeah, I had that thought where I'm like, what team have we not talked about since I've basically joined football today?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the one team that we just don't talk about is the New Orleans Saints.
We will shortly because we have one more division left, and that is the
NFC
South.
Is
the NFC South, and so we will end up doing that.
Bang.
I know you got to get back to floorball. Stay healthy out there.
Thank you.
And we will be back with everybody next week. So have a good, restful football weekend. For producer Mikey, always does an amazing job, and Justin Penik, and a world-traveling Bobby Skinner, wherever he is, around the globe. I am Chris Rose. We will see you next time here on Football Today.